In this episode of D&D Rules School, our goal is to learn all about the variety of actions you can take in combat in D&D 5th edition. This video is brought to you in partnership with Absolute Tabletop, who makes some excellent D&D 5th edition compatible supplements. Need a fresh new setting? Check out their incredible A Dead Man's Guide to Dragon Grin. Need a new adventure or some inspiration? Check out their adventure kits. This and lots more are available on their website. Just click the link in the video description. Hi everyone, my name is Nate and you are watching WASD20, a channel about tabletop RPGs and fantasy maps. In the last episode, we discussed the basic rules of combat, including rules for determining surprise and figuring out the order of combat through initiative. Then we talked about what each character can do on their turn. The main things being moving up to your movement speed, and taking an action. However, the only action we covered in that one was the attack action, which is probably the most common, but the rules do specify 9 other actions players can take in combat. So those other 9 will be included in today's lesson. Now, in addition to the move and action, you'll notice that as we're reading some of the action descriptions, bonus action and reaction will be mentioned. So we should cover those two first. A bonus action is one that only certain class features, spells, or other abilities allow for. On your turn, don't think you need to take a bonus action every time, and don't misinterpret this as your character getting to do something extra on every turn. Rather, if you have a spell that has bonus action as its casting time, know that you can do that in addition to your move and action. Or it might be a class ability, like the Rogue's Cunning action, or the Barbarian's Rage. In addition to the move and action, these class features allow a small extra something that the character can do on their turn, and it specifies that they can be done during a bonus action. Also, do note that unless an ability states so, it does not matter which order these things happen in. You could use your bonus action first, then your attack, then your move. No need to use them in the order I have them here. Now that's a bonus action. For a reaction, we're talking about something that a character does in response to certain triggers. As with bonus actions, these are often abilities specified from class features. For example, at 3rd level, the monk gains the ability to deflect missiles as a reaction, catching or redirecting arrows or other ranged attacks. This wouldn't happen on the monk's turn, but as a reaction to an incoming attack on the enemy's turn. Certain spells like Shield also have one reaction as their casting time. So in this case, you can cast this to get a bonus to your armor class as you are being attacked, not on your turn. Another really common reaction is an opportunity attack. Normally, when you move out of melee range away from a hostile creature, the hostile creature can use a reaction to make an opportunity attack, or vice versa if an enemy moves out of your melee range. Just keep in mind you only get one reaction in one round of combat. So if my monk has already deflected a missile this round, and an enemy moves out of my melee range, I don't get an opportunity attack because I've already used my reaction that round. The same thing goes for bonus actions, only one per round. With bonus actions and reactions out of the way, it's time to turn our attention to the other possible ways we can use our action. We covered the attack action in the last video, but the other 9 are cast a spell, dash, disengage, dodge, help, hide, ready, search, use an object. So first, let's talk about the action cast a spell. It's important to note here that casting a spell is not always an action. As we just noted, some spells can be cast as a bonus action or reaction. Some take a full minute, 10 minutes, or even an hour. This is always noted in the spell entry under casting time, and with a quick glance through the spell list in the player's handbook, you will find that most spells do have a casting time of 1 action. So perhaps as a druid, you use your turn to move to an advantageous position, and then you cast the Entangle spell with your action. Weeds and vines pop out of the ground, and now the bandit I've spotted has to succeed on a strength saving throw to avoid being restrained. Next, the dash action. While dashing, instead of only moving your walking speed, you can actually move double your walking speed. So here's our barbarian. He's going to use his move to chase the evil wizard, but he's not in melee range yet, so he uses the dash action to move again. Now, since he's already used his action to dash, he doesn't also get to attack, but he does get in melee range and he's ready to attack on the next turn. And if the wizard tries to move on his next turn, our barbarian can use a reaction to make an opportunity attack, just like we talked about earlier. Now, speaking of opportunity attacks, if you want to avoid provoking an opportunity attack when you move out of melee range, use the Disengage action. That's right, if you say, I am going to disengage, you can then use your movement to move away from an enemy without provoking an opportunity attack. So our druid here can disengage from the giant attacking it and then move away. But since she has already used her action to disengage, she can't also attack on this turn. Another defensive action is the dodge action. When you dodge, you use your action to become harder to hit. Until the start of your next turn, any attack roll made against you has disadvantage, which means the attacker will roll 2 attack rolls and must take the lowest. This makes you quite a bit harder to hit. You also get advantage on any dexterity saving throws, which means you'll roll twice and take the highest. This can be a really useful strategy for a tank-like character who just wants to draw attention while the other player characters deal most of the damage. It can also be useful if your hit points are currently very low and you just want to increase your chances of staying conscious or alive in the fight. Next, the help action. When you take this action, you are aiding an ally in the completion of a task, giving them advantage on their roll to do something. This could also be advantage on an attack roll if the player is within 5 feet of the creature being attacked. Normally, I do make my players narrate how they are helping. They can give a boost to a character trying to climb a wall so that they would have advantage on their strength athletics check to climb up. Or perhaps they could distract a giant by pulling its bootstraps from behind, giving their ally advantage on the next attack. The hide action is another useful one. First, you have to have a logical place to hide in the environment, and if the DM approves, you would make a dexterity stealth check in order to hide. If you succeed, you get certain benefits described under the section on unseen attackers and targets, which is on page 194 of the player's handbook. To summarize, however, attacks against you have disadvantage, and your own attacks have advantage. Next, let's talk about the ready action. This one lets you delay your action until a certain circumstance you declare comes to pass. This action, after a trigger you name, does actually use your reaction. And an example might be a character saying, I ready an arrow, and if any of the kobolds walk through the door, I'll shoot. If no kobolds walk through that door, the action never occurs. Now, let's say that after you ready your action, another party member starts to negotiate with the kobolds. If one does step through the door, which is the trigger you declared, you could still choose not to shoot the arrow. You aren't locked into the readied action, though you cannot change and say you want to shoot an arrow after one of them insults you or drops down from the ceiling. You can only do the action you declared on the trigger you declared. Also, if you ready a spell, you are casting the spell and holding its energy. This means that, yes, you are using a spell slot, even if the trigger never comes to pass or you change your mind. Holding the energy for that spell also requires concentration, which means if you take damage, you will have to make a Constitution saving throw to hold that concentration if you haven't cast the spell yet. Next, we have the search action, which uses your turn to put your focus on finding something. You would describe what you want to search for, and the DM will most likely have you roll a wisdom perception check or an intelligence investigation check, depending on the nature of your search. For more on the difference between perception and investigation, see my descriptions of skills in episode 2. I'll put a link up at the top there. Lastly, we have an action called Use an Object. Now, it's important to note here that there are certain small interactions with objects that don't require you to use an action. 2 examples the rules provide are drawing your sword before you attack or opening a door as a part of your move. However, For other interactions with objects, the DM might require you to use an action. Maybe it's because you drew your sword and you want to do something else. Or maybe it's because the action seems like it would just take a bit longer and should cost a full action. Something like turning a crank of a drawbridge or trying to open a door that is jammed shut rather than just closed. Well, there you have it. Now we have covered all the actions from the player's handbook, but do understand that there are nearly limitless possibilities for other actions too. So work with your dungeon master and don't always get caught up in just looking at your character sheet, trying to find the actions and abilities that are listed there. Think outside the box a little bit. Work with your fellow party members and be creative as you encounter the challenges the DM has planned for you. Dungeon masters, encourage that creativity and work with it in combat. I'd love to hear your thoughts and questions on any of this down in the comments below, so please do leave those. Now, if you value these videos and you want to help support my channel, I would greatly appreciate it. There are a couple of ways you can do that. One of them is by buying your RPG products through my Amazon affiliate links. I put some of those down in the video description so you can check out some of those. So anything you buy after you click on those links does give a small commission to me at no extra cost to you, so check those out. And I also do want to thank the WASD20 patrons. Patrons are people who support the channel on a monthly basis. They get access to things like weekly live map drawing streams and campaign diaries. So go check out some of the cool benefits and step up and help support the channel. Patreon.com/WASD20. Thank you so much, patrons. All right, that's all for this one. I want to thank you all for joining me. Make sure you're subscribed and give this one a like if it was helpful. And take care, everybody. You'll see me again very soon.